Hey guys, I'm Joe Klemczewski, founder of the Diet Doc, here with Dr. Corey Probst, and we are in our fourth segment, part 4 of our gears. Corey, I'm going to need help with this one, but the
5 gears of
5 gears.
Energetic goal pursuit.
5 gears to energetic goal pursuit. So the issue we're having with our titling is there are 3 basic needs, and I just put up like 5 fingers. 3 basic needs of self-determination theory, but we're putting it in the framework of 5 gears because we want to get you through the introductory portion. We're going to have some application at the end here. So part 4, but we are talking about autonomy, which is the 3rd gear that we're talking about, or third. See, we're messing it up. We totally screwed this whole thing up. So I'm just going to shut up and turn it over to Corey, but we're going to talk about the things you can do as a clinician or a consultant or a coach to help your clients bring forth better autonomy and independence in their own lives to make them a better partner with you. And if you're not a coach and you're watching this, you're going to love this because you're going to see how this can impact other people around you. So let's turn it over to Corey and see what we can learn.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Joe.
It was all I could give today. That was it.
Okay, I need to center myself here. So what I really wanted to address today, because we're shifting into overdrive now. You know, we started off in first gear. We shifted through second, third, fourth, and now we're in 5th gear. This is the longest part of the goal pursuit process, right? We're going to spend the most time here. So I want everyone listening and watching to understand what the most optimal autonomy supportive behaviors are. Okay. So if you're a coach, these are what you want to look for and help foster within your clients. And if you're a client and you're working towards a specific goal, these are behaviors and actions that individuals who can consistently stay energetic, consistently stay motivated, and that doesn't mean they actually feel like doing things all the time, but they just know it's important. These are the things they do. These are the actions they take and the intentions that they have. These are also, when I was working on my dissertation, Joe, and I did a study on individuals who lost weight and maintained weight successfully, these are the practices that they engaged in as well. So, okay, now that we have that foundation, I'll say this. When I was coding all of my data and the interviews that I did with my research participants, I had to find a way to consolidate the information. And there were 6 themes that I noticed when they were sharing with me what their goal pursuit was like, that related to autonomy, that sense of volition, you know, the sense of choice, that they were kind of the overseers of what they were engaged in. There were 6 themes that I noticed, and they were these: that they were kind of wrapping their identities around this goal pursuit. And this goal specifically was becoming a part of their identities. And that's really important to remember if it's a goal that, and we're creating changes and habits around that goal that we want to maintain, right? That we want to be sustainable. So that was the first one. The second one was that I called it internalizing motivation. And what I mean by that is, coming back to what I said previously, understanding first what motivation is, just this sense of a psychological, mainly, energy to move forward with something because it's meaningful to us. That's what, when you think about, I'm big on like how to make associations to remember things. So when I think of internalizing, I think of injecting. I just did this. I don't know why.
Yeah, we'll just forget that didn't happen.
Okay, yeah. We're going to leave that alone. So they are literally learning how to inject that energy into their systems to stay consistent and disciplined. The second theme I noticed was that they anticipate success. Okay, so they are really practicing staying optimistic. They're practicing optimism so that they can move forward and maintain some level of momentum, even when they, quote unquote, don't feel like it, or when they're fatigued, or when things get difficult, or when they feel like they're trudging through quicksand, or when, you know, things are happening in life that just make that goal pursuit more difficult. Now, the fourth one that I noticed was that they search for choices. Okay, and this isn't like scrambling around trying to figure out what to do kind of searching. It's, remember, it's supportive autonomy of choice. So the individuals who are most successful they're thinking about how whatever's right in front of them may not be the full picture. So they're asking themselves, like, what may I not be seeing right now? You know, what are the other perspectives that I could do well to explore? The fifth one, Joe, since we're all about numbers, right, is standing one's ground. All right. And this my clients, the people who are in my study who exhibited the traits that revolved around standing one's ground, they were like unyieldingly decisive in the face of threats. They were staunch in their beliefs about what they were going to do, how they were going to get there. Even if it was going to be difficult, they were going to stand their ground. They didn't see that they had any other choice. They were very, very intentional. The sixth theme was differentiating. And how I kind of characterized this was in a more sort of advanced technique where the client is really involved in self-understanding, right? And one person that I interviewed in my study, she was really involved in questioning her goals. And not in terms of, is this the right or wrong goal, but how am I viewing the goal? And is this really aligned with who I want to be as a person, how I want to show up, and especially because she was a mother, what is it that I want to model for my children? So these were the 6 themes. And I'm interested from your perspective, Joe, because, I mean, you've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients too. When you think of goals from the perspective of choice and autonomy and volition, and I chose this, I'm not pursuing a goal that someone else told me I had to, or that they thought was important. What are the specific, if you could name maybe 3 or 4 actions or behaviors that you see your clients engage in?
Well, first of all, I love the way that you broke those out. You know, I think in terms of, first of all, breaking up somebody's goal into intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Yeah.
And even though there are some extrinsic, we've talked about this a lot, some extrinsic things that are helpful, if there's just not a massive pressing why that you're willing to pay for, that there's a cost and a sacrifice and you're willing to consistently dig in and get that work done, it's just never going to happen. So people who stop and start, wonder why they never accomplish goals. I go to that point, but you just took my why and you listed out all of those different facets. So I would love to see those even listed in our show notes. So Steve, as you're watching this, I would love for those to be listed out, because I think if somebody had a list of every single one of those and asked themselves, they could really find some facet of you know, a nuance of a behavior that they just haven't thought of. They have not externalized that and thought of it in that way. So I just love that. I was listening to every single point. I can really, you know, as you were talking, the only thing that came up to me was, because it's so foundational, was, you might not remember this, but 8, 9, 10 years ago, I remember having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And you pointed out how much more effective I would be in communicating with people if I used I statements. So even if I was not saying you do this autocratically, if I just put something out there as dogma, this is the way this goes, it's still kind of forceful and leaves very little room for autonomy. But if you say, you know, I feel like this, or in my life, I find this, or I think this, what do you, and you engage them, that just creates independence and creates participation. And so, I mean, that has changed my world in terms of how I communicate with every person in every context, because it is so much more socially inviting and brings everybody out into the open instead of shirking back, feeling like they don't have a voice.
Yeah, I love that, Joe. It's so much less threatening. And your word inviting was exactly what pinged in my brain. You are giving them an invitation to express themselves. Now we're engaged in a conversation. It's not like a one down conversation, like demand. Here's what you're going to do because this is what I think is right. It's let's have a dialogue, let's have a discourse, and it conveys respect for both people in a situation like that. So yeah, I think your ability to do that as a coach makes a massive difference, for sure, in terms of fostering autonomy. If we look at individual behaviors of clients who are, let's just look at the first category of defining an identity, wrapping this goal into the person's identity. What we see a lot of times is goals being set based on feeling healthier, right? And being around longer for a whole host of reasons. But the feeling part, the internalization of this goal, as opposed to how I'm going to look. You know what, guys? Because we're going to age. And unless you're going to be injecting yourself with a lot of Botox and hormones.
Just did that again. You keep going right for your elbow.
Well, it was perfect, right? Because, I mean, I did it that time on purpose.
I mean, if there's anything you need to talk about, Corey, just let me know. We can, off camera.
Maybe we could have an intervention on the podcast. No, I'm all good. Like, you can check my veins are healthy and yeah. Other things are believing in a sense of choice. And here's the big word, taking ownership for the goal. We were just having a conversation in our Diet Doc License Owner Forum today about what ownership is and how that translates into not just, yes, the goal is important to me, I take ownership of my goal, like just paying lip service to the goal, but then what are the next steps? What does a person who takes ownership, what does that person do? How does that person act? How does that person contribute in the world? How do they impact other people? So it's kind of the next step after ownership. Another word for that is responsibility. If I'm going to take responsibility for this goal, what would I do and how would I act? Well, individuals who are wrapping it into their identities, they prove their capabilities to themselves. So that means that they take an honest assessment of what their skills are and are not. And when they've reflected upon that and they have a good sense of kind of where their deficits are, where their weaknesses are, they can admit that and say, okay, how might I develop a more skillful way of doing this? And then their strengths too, once they know what those are and have kind of a grasp of what those are, they actually use them. They implement them. So that proving capabilities to themselves is important. We see that a lot. Another thing that they do is that they're honest with themselves, okay? They don't stick their heads in the sand. They don't try to shove things under the rug when it comes to their behaviors and their thoughts. Like, there is an honesty and an authenticity and a genuineness around, like, whoa, okay, I'm human here. You know what? This is how things are going for me, especially when they're not really going well. They are willing, and not just willing, but like super open to look at the rawness of what's right in front of them when they're struggling. The other thing they do is they set goals outside of the expectations of others. And I can't tell you how many clients I've had who come to me, and you might relate to this, Joe, and they're like, well, so-and-so thinks I need to do this, and so-and-so thinks I need to do that. And the last time that I did this, so-and-so said this and that. And I'm just like, hang on. Where are you in this equation? You're the one doing the work. What's important to you? How would you do this? What are your values, not the 5 or 10 other people who think they should manage your life?
And I think, Corey, I mean, that's so important as a clinician working with people, because they have those voices around them, giving them those ideas that you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And with you as a coach, not just saying, well, don't listen to them, listen to me. Now you're doing the same thing. You're taking it back to them. I have an interesting story. Nobody can say this outside of this podcast because I'm giving private family information. But yeah. So my oldest daughter and my wife, I'll whisper it, they were talking about my youngest daughter and this situation in her life. And they're like, yeah, we think she should do this. We told her this, and we told her this. I'm like, whoa, like time out. And they were being nice. I mean, it's for, you know, my youngest daughter's own good and benefit. But I said, why don't you let her make this kind of decision? I said, first of all, she's 16. She needs to start practicing impactful decision making. It's not like she's packing up and moving to Paris, or, you know, she's just, this is a pretty safe decision. Even if she's wrong, even if it doesn't pan out, it's okay. I agree with you guys, but let's just quit piling on and let her make the decision how she wants. Yeah. So of course they agreed after that. But again, I was giving them just an alternate perspective. I said, look, you know, you guys are doing this for all the right intentions. It's fine. I get it. But let her be independent. And later on, my daughter, without their input, made the decision they wanted anyway. So for her own reasons. So she made the decision. And I think that's just a nugget of what everybody deals with, because we all want somebody's approval or affirmation or permission to do something. And you as a clinician are giving them permission to listen to themselves. You're supporting that decision.
Yes. Our job ultimately as coaches, I feel, is to help them discover themselves. So I think it's very easy to fall into the trap as a coach when your client comes to you and they say, well, my old coach said, or I learned this from so-and-so, to be like, look, who did you hire? Who are you paying? Like, if we have too many people's hands in the pot right now, it's not going to work. So just need to listen to me. And I have a lot of clients who come to me who have said, my coach would get really mad at me when I would bring up other stuff from other coaches or whatever. The competent coach will be like, well, yeah, tell me what they said. Tell me what you've understood based on what they've shared with you. Let's sift through that together and see what makes sense for you now. That's not hard. There is a level of humility in that, though, that
right. Yeah, I mean, we need to do, we're going to end up doing an entire big series on ego dissolution sometime, but save that for another day.
That'd be fun. Yep. So that's a really good point, Joe. I mean, I could go on and on about the specific behaviors within each of those 6 categories. I think maybe what would be good is I'll just give one from each. We'll put those in the show notes for everyone. And just so you guys know, these are in a lot of the blogs that we've written. So this would be super helpful for you to go read, because you're going to get a very detailed description of the specific behaviors that you can begin to apply in your own lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thedietdoc.com is where those are all housed. Free content at thedietdoc.com.
For sure. Yeah. So let's go to internalizing motivation, right? These people engage in what's called metacognition. You don't need to remember that word. It's just a fancy term for they think about how they think. Why do I think that way? How come? That's an interesting belief. I wonder why I have an association with these two things. Like, oh, I just spoke with a client the other day who, she's a teacher. Her student came in and gave her a donut. She's working on weight loss. And she's like, I immediately had a memory of when I would eat donuts with my dad. Okay. It's so cool that she emails me and she's telling me about this memory. Now she's thinking about those thoughts. Like, what could this mean in situations when things like that come up? How do I respond more skillfully? I don't have to believe a story like, okay, I had a memory about my dad and the donut. Does that mean I have to eat the donut? So we super simple stuff, but that's what metacognition is, thinking about how we think and why we think what we think. In terms of anticipating success, a lot of these individuals with a high level of supported autonomy, they are crafting this high intensity inner determination through the use of mantras and positive thinking and quotes. Like, they are really engineering their environment to help facilitate that energy and that drive. And they keep things in front of them all the time that remind them of what they're capable of, how come they're doing this, the individuals that their change is going to impact, and how it's going to contribute in a meaningful way. I was talking with my financial advisor yesterday, and she was like, I was told by, one of my mentors recently, again, because she was told this like 3 years ago, she create your online course and I'll put it up, because she's involved with this, college. She's involved with a college, and he has said, I'll put it up for people to purchase. She doesn't have to pay him anything to do this. And she hasn't created it. It's been like 2 or 3 years. And I said, I wonder if we think about this differently. You're getting bogged down right now in, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. Like, I've got so many other things on my plate. I don't know how I'd ever get it done. She's already got the outline for it. She knows exactly what's going to go into the course. Something that helps me personally is this is sitting in my head or sitting in my documents folder. No one's benefiting from it. Like, I have all this amazing information that people could really use and apply in their lives to improve and change and become more autonomous and competent and connected. And it's just sitting there. I was like, for me, all I have to do is come back to that. Like, people need this. Get it out there. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's totally right. Because her whole, the way she orients herself right now, and she's a financial advisor, she will do things and not take commission because she is so concerned about people's financial security. Her husband died. She was a widow. She didn't have any idea what was going on financially. And so that experience has put her in a place where it's all now like, I want people to benefit. So that's just an example of, anticipating success and mantras and engineering your environment. So how are we doing, Joe?
We're going to run a little long on time, but otherwise I like the information.
No way.
It would never happen to us, I know.
So we can wrap up here. Reminder that the other three were searching for choices. And guys, part of this is surrounding yourselves with people. okay, who maybe are a little more skilled than you, right? Who have accomplished things that you haven't, who you respect, who you look at and you're like, wow, they kind of have it together. And communicating with them to find out how you might change your perception or see what other choices are out there for yourselves. Standing one's ground, okay, being staunch in your belief that I can do this. I can do this. I chose this. Come back to your values and your reasons why. But don't be rigid, be flexible, but have a very grounded sense about you. And again, this takes practice. Like, we don't come out of the womb with all of these things, guys. And then differentiating. And just to review, that means, as an example, kind of looking at the external influences and factors and the internal influences and factors, and just asking yourself, what's really guiding me here? What's really important? And as I move through this pursuit and down this road, I'm in 5th gear right now, what is it that I want my true intentions to be?
And Corey, I would say to maybe just take one little segue in what's that?
Do we need to pull off onto the side of the road and take a
out of 5th gear into a pit stop? No, I think, I would just remind everybody that there are two sides to this coin. We're talking about energetic goal pursuit, but from the perspective of you coaching clients. So anybody listening to this should be thinking on a 2-track plane here, where it's like, yeah, I need to do that more for myself, or that'll help me. But also a really key thing that we have to emphasize is we all need to do this for other people. If you want to be a socially dynamic, socially engaged, socially respected person, you're going to be the person who gives people that gift of autonomy and independence, and you help elevate them in their own decision making. And that's what this is all about. Is you, as Corey said, inviting them into this space where you're giving them that respect instead of telling them what to do or what you think they should do, and you're just hyper opinionating everything. You're just saying, man, I want to give you this space and support your decisions. How can I best do that? Right.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
So awesome. So we're going to be in part 5 next time. I'm going to try not to throw too many numbers here together. We are going to perfect this by the time we're done with the series, because I think it's a great illustration, a metaphor of the 5 gears. So 5th gear is open road on the highway, and you're giving this support to your clients. We've already outlined what those 3 self-determination motives are. Now it's how can you facilitate them with people around you. So we're going to be in 5th gear for the next part or 2 to the series. But as always, Dr. Probst, health psychologist extraordinaire, just putting the beat down on how we can all be better people, better coaches.
Yeah. Not me, really, guys.
No, the beat down in terms of knowledge. You're dropping the knowledge bombs here with authority.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and we're going to catch you next time as we keep this series going.
Thanks, guys.